Okay, this is going to be a lesson on liquidity void and fair value gap. So imbalance, right? In the crypto community, people like to talk about imbalance, and what they do is they don't differentiate the difference between a liquidity void and a fair value gap in price. What a liquidity void is, I'll show you an example. There's a clear one on Euro USD. You see when this candle happened, this was a liquidity void. This candle is a liquidity void, right? Why is it a liquidity void? Because there's only one side in within this price range from in this candle. There's not even a retracement back into it. Forget the retracement that happened now. Whilst we're trading into here, nothing is even offered back into here, right? Fair value gap is this, right? This is a fair value gap. Now there is a fair value gap because these wicks have created it, right? We've traded back into it more, right? We've traded more into it, so we're closing in that void and we're offering it. But there's still a what? There's still a gap in the fair value offered here because there's still only sell side offered here and there's no buy side that's being rebalanced with it. Prior to this, this will be labeled as a liquidity void. This entire candle from here to here is a void in price. There's nothing that's being traded back into it. There's a void in price, right? Now this is called a fair value gap. Do you see the difference, the transition and the difference? And these things are very, very important. And now I'm going to go into why. Within every single fair value gap, we like to see a liquidity void. How can you create, right? And think about this. How can you create a fair value gap without a liquidity void? Because essentially what people see imbalances is when the market takes off in one direction and they'll call that a fair value gap. But that's a liquidity void. You can't have a fair value gap without a liquidity void, right? So if we now take this price action into a low time frame, let's go to the 5. Cool. What do we see here? Do you see this big candle? This is what we call a liquidity void. There is nothing even offered here. There is no retracement even offered here, right? From here onwards, cool, it offers a small retracement. When this candle first took place, this is called a liquidity void. On a higher time frame, or this movement here in a 15-minute most likely, or maybe even a 30-minute, is another void in price, right? I want to bring your attention to something as well. Is it in here? One second. Let's go on the 1 minute. There are plenty of them, right? On the 1 minute. Let's look. We're looking for something called a volume imbalance, vacuum block. On the DXY, there's always plenty of them. Okay. This is a 1 minute chart, but it applies for all time frames. You see these, right? These little pockets in price. These are called your real gap volume imbalance, right? Real gap or volume imbalance. Essentially, if you look at this on a 5 minute, you see from this candle's close to this candle, right? This gap. On the 5 minute, it will just like jerk up really fast. You know when you see a candle and it just open like let's say the 5 minute candle closes and the next one opens, and you know it just sometimes it just shoots up one time, like it just shoots up. If you go down onto the low time frames, you'll see that aggressive shot up is is caused by this volume imbalance, right? And how we want to see these volume imbalances get traded into is similar to an imbalance in price. We just want to see the close of this, right? Come into here, and we want to see the close off of it. For example, here, when this candle gapped up higher, it came into wick it and it filled, right? Came into here, wicked it, overshot it, and it filled, right? It's very common on the 1 minute. Whenever you see like a 5 minute imbalance or a 15-minute imbalance, right? Fair value gap, you want to chase it down into the lower time frames. So let's look for an example. Let's go to today's price action. Okay. So what do we have here? We have a fair value gap, right? Forget everything to the right of my cursor right now. This is a fair value gap from this wick to this wick. What do you think lies within this candle? Within the fair value gap, what do you think lies? Let me just let's go into, oh, this is a 1 minute chart. Let's go into a 15-minute chart, intraday level, and find one. Okay, this is a perfect example right here. You see what I marked down the 15-minute? Oh, why is it making me go back here? Look at this candle, right? Look at this candle here. That's a fair value gap in price, right? When we go down, when we went down into the 1 minute, what do we see? We see that this was created by a liquidity void. Whenever there is a fair value gap, it creates a liquidity void. That's the liquidity void is usually how there's a fair value gap, because the liquidity void is the mechanic, you can say, or the underlying factor of why there is a fair value gap in price. It's when there is a lower time frame liquidity void creating that gap in price from the wick to the wick. You see, this just offers one side. There's not even a wick on either side of the candle. That's a void in price. There is no selling at all within this entirety of this candle. There's no wick. There's nothing. Look, the high equals the close, and the open is equal to the low. There's no wicks on this candle, right? That's a true liquidity void. There's only one side purely offered. The fair value gap is not when there's only one side offered. It's when there is, with a candle, right? So let's go back to the daily because there's a nice example in the daily. Is like this, where there is buy side and sell side offered, but there's still a gap in the price of it. So this was one move down. Before there was these wicks, this was a whole liquidity void. And then look, now we created a fair value gap in price. This is so important, and I want to touch more into the whole thing about fair about a fair value gap and order block specifically within this video because it's going to help you guys a lot. The only order blocks you guys should be taking, right? And this is going to turn into a theory side of the video now. The only order blocks you guys should be taking are the ones that are in line with imbalance. Let's talk why. By definition, from your notes, or if you can remember, what is the definition I gave you guys for the order block? A change in the state of price delivery, right? Is when we change from one way to another way. That's when the algorithm goes into a different state of price delivery. So it was offering buy side and then it just starts to offer sell side. Now, how do we know, right? Think about this. How do we know? How can we classify that as an order block? How can we concrete proof solidify that an order block is indeed an order block? The fair value gap. Because what does a imbalance do? Well, how is an imbalance created? When you intertwine these two definitions, yeah, and the logic behind it, you'll understand why the imbalance with the order block is the true order block. An imbalance is when only there's one side of price delivered. An order block, when there's a change in the state of price delivery. How can there be a change in the state of price delivery if the opposing side of the market is not only offered? Clearly, then there's no change there's no change in the state of price delivery. I'll say that again. An order block is a change in the state of price delivery. How do we truly know when there's a change in the state of price delivery? When a fair value gap gets left behind. Why? Because a fair value gap shows what? That there's only been that one side of price delivered. Okay, so if there was no change in price or state delivery, why is the algorithm leaving imbalances? Aha moment. Look at things for what they are. Don't look at them as candles. Look at them as just when you look at it, you have to make those logical links within your brain, right? Order block, fair value gap. There has been a true change in the state of price delivery. A true change in the state of price delivery, right? People be taking these little shitty candles as order blocks. Why? Why would you want to risk your trade on that? Why would you want to risk your flipping trade on that, right? For example, here there's imbalance, right? Here, undoubtedly, there is imbalance. This will be a valid order block to trade off of. Why? Because this imbalance shows, right, the way we move down, there's a clear change in the state of price delivery, right? You have to start looking at things for the logical imprint they are within the market. Think like the algorithm, right? Has it really changed its state of price delivery if it doesn't leave a fair value gap? If you say yes, prove it to me with a logical with some sort of logic, prove it to me. Because I'm telling you there can only be a change in the state of price delivery if the algorithm then goes and offers only one way of the other price, right? So this is bullish. If there is a true change in the state of price delivery to change into sell into bearish, then I want to see a bearish fair value gap. Otherwise, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be, I'm not going to believe the fact that there's been a change in the state of price delivery. I won't believe it because if there is a true change in the state of price delivery, then the algorithm should offer a clear one way of selling. Then I truly believe that there has been a change in state of price delivery. Then I can look for my retracement back into the order block, right? This is a key teaching that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention because a lot of you guys are telling me order block or fair value gap. Order block or fair value gap. Okay, well, I gave you both. I've just taught you what is a valid order block. Let's try find an example. Let's remove all of this. valid order block here through these last three down candles. Why? Look at the imbalance left behind. There is a clear change in the state of price delivery here. If we go to the 15, let's look for one that's, so for example, if price came into here, valid order block, right? Of course, but when you go into the higher time frame and you see this range, you understand why, because there's three down close candles, right? Here, price didn't quite get to it, but look, the imbalance was left from this candle to this candle, and then it came and closed it in, moves up higher, right? Doesn't get to the order block there. If you want to trade order blocks, because some of you don't want to trade order blocks, that's fine. This is where you guys, the chapter two is the reason behind chapter two is I'm giving you the tools now, and these are going to be the tools in intraday where you frame your trade around the price array that you are the most comfortable with. I'm assuming that most of you are going to order blocks and fair value gaps, as you know, they are probably the easier ones. I like breakers as well. Breakers are nice. I know I think as Charlie likes his breaker blocks, and I think his Matt as well. This is an example where it gets to the fair value gap, doesn't get to the order block. However, if it breaks into this fair value gap intraday level, this is a valid order block to take the trade off of because it left that imbalance behind, right? This is something called a balanced price range. You see this, and then this is matched it straight away. There's no imbalance within this candle. This to here, there's no imbalance. There is no imbalance in price. From this candle's wick to this candle's wick, there's no imbalance. Yes, there's a gap in the body, I know that, but you have to look at imbalance like this, right? That range in price, right? This range in price, you have to look at price as a range. And I'm going to give you what a balanced price range is later on. It's going to be more of the later end topics, right? Essentially, what balanced price range is you have to look at imbalance within a price range sometimes. Well, all the time you should be doing it. Within this price range from this high to this low, where is the buy side and sell side stopping? Well, this candle offers one way down, correct, and we come straight back up. So this candle immediately rebalances all of this. This is not a fair value gap, therefore, because this candle and this candle is just rebalancing all the sell side. Sell side matched with buy side, checked off, balanced, right? Buy side only here, not rebalanced. This is not rebalanced, right? Because there's only buy side. Look to the left within here. What's to the left? Nothing. Yes, all the way over here, but look, we're not caring about that. I'm saying what price action is there close to the left? There's no price range to the left of it. This price range, we're above it. This is a true imbalance, right? The key takeaway from this video is the fact that when you're looking for your fair value gaps, match your fair value gaps with some sort of liquidity void. The better fair value gaps have the liquidity void, and the better order blocks have fair value gap. I'll say that again. The better fair value gaps have liquidity void when you break it down into a smaller time frame, and the better order blocks are reinforced by an imbalance. I don't even want you guys to trade an order block if there's no imbalance. It doesn't make sense to you. Logically, from a logical standpoint, it makes no sense to you. It's a short video. There's no need for me to long this out, and I could go talking to balanced price ranges, but that needs to be a whole video by itself because you guys need to digest the teachings of the whole imbalance and liquidity void in order for me to explain what the balanced price range actually is, right? Homework, look at your higher time frame charts there, or even go on the 1 hour because the 1 hour is going to offer this quite a lot, right? Go into and find existing fair value gaps within the market, right? There's nothing really here. So like for example, from here, is anything higher? No. So from here to here is your fair value gap in price. Actually, no, it's this one. My bad. I thought this one was higher. From here to here is your fair value gap in price. Within your fair value gap in price, see if there's a liquidity void. If there's a liquidity void, high probability, because this is what we're going to get to intraday. We're going to always look for high probability. We always want the setups to be high probability within our favor. If there is, you know, within this imbalance, if there is no lower time frame imbalance or liquidity void within it, it's really not going to be high probability, right? This is where you want to start looking for confluences and matching price arrays. And now within the whole entire price array that I taught you, so let's go through it. Mitigation, breaker, liquidity void, fair value gap, order block, rejection block. Yeah, this is going to be called in the next lesson the premium discount array matrix. Essentially, just the overview into the next lesson, I'm going to be teaching you guys in every single price range, some things are going to exist. There will always be, not all of them, but there will always be a few of these included within every price range. There'll be a breaker block, an order block. There will be a fair value gap. A rejection block exists if it has wicks, right? Like this is a rejection block. We see how we trade into it and we move off. Mitigation block, right? These things are going to be all in a price range, right? And it's very important because some things, right? Have you ever traded a breaker and it goes over past the breaker and it goes into like something else like a gap, like a fair value gap? Because it goes back to the function of the algorithm. Some things are more important than other things, given the context that it's in, right? That's all for this video. What you guys need to do is what I said before. Look for your fair value gaps, right? Let's move away from calling them imbalances. Within your fair value gaps, I want you guys to identify your liquidity voids. When you see one-sidedness, right, that's going to be a liquidity void. I want you guys now to start getting a good habit of labeling it as liquidity void until it's rebalanced. Like now, this was liquidity void. Now this is fair value gap. Within this fair value gap, there's probably still a level of this liquidity void on a lower time frame. Liquidity void closed in, right? That's all for this lesson. Any questions? There shouldn't be too many questions to this. I just had to introduce you guys to the fact of liquidity void because a lot of times, right, you will not see the entirety of the fair value gap become filled due to the fact of a lower time frame liquidity void that you guys aren't aware of yet, but now you're aware of it. So within your fair value gap on a lower time frame, you want to be looking for those liquidity voids. That's all for this video. Show me examples, right? Intraday level is where you want to look for these things as well. Whenever you see like a 1 hour imbalance, right, fair value gap, go onto like the 1 or the 5 minute chart and see if there's only one-sidedness offered in one, like a 1 or 2 candles offer just one-sided price. Those are your liquidity voids, and that is gonna show that that fair value gap on that higher time frame is high probability for price to trade back into. Same with the order block matching with the fair value gap, high probability. So that's all for this video, and take care of yourselves, guys.